Okay, what is up guys? Welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to talk to you about my new COB light. That is this bicolor GVM SD300D. It's a cheap onboard light that basically runs anywhere from 2700K all the way up to 7500K, which is an absolute fantastic game changer for a 300 watt COB light. And in this video, I'm going to tell you everything you pretty much need to know about this light and talk about my thoughts and opinions about it after using it for about the last 2 weeks. Let's get into it. The Khan of Gods! So first things first, the unboxing experience. This thing comes in a brown box, obviously, like most GVM lights, but the box actually still contains this. That's this bag, this carrying bag for carrying this light around and packing it down and pretty much being able to move it around without damaging anything or scratching up anything, which I think is fantastic. They did a fantastic job with the packaging for this light. So when you open up the box, you're going to get the light itself, you're going to get the reflector, you're going to get the power brick, which you can't currently see right now as it's just out of frame, but I'll be showing you what that looks like. And you're going to get the power cable, which is like 3 meters long. I think this is longer than 3 meters. It's really long, so you're never going to have a problem with maybe if you hung the light way up, you're not going to have enough cable to actually pass it down to a power brick or something like that. It's fantastic. I love it. You're also going to get a strap for mounting the power brick onto the light stand that you're using, and you're going to get like a small plastic diffuser for the chip on the COB itself, which is not something I would use for a 300 watt light. I mean, obviously you're probably not using the light at full capacity in most instances, but still having a plastic diffuser like that close to the chip or the COB is not something that I would ever want to do. And of course you're going to get a manual, which for the most part you don't need because this light is actually pretty self-explanatory. Speaking a little bit on the quality of the parts you actually get in the box. So the power cable, this part that plugs into the back of the light itself, is actually a proprietary cable, which, I mean, is pretty strong. It looks like an XLR 3-pin, but it's not. It works, in my opinion, and once you have it in and you press down on the latch here, it's not going to come off, which is fantastic. The light itself is built with mostly plastic and metal because I guess they were trying to handle heat or something, but the parts that are most important and the parts that are most fragile and breakable were actually made metal. So for example, the bracket here that holds it to the light stand is completely metal. The plastic, I think these are called yokes. The yokes are actually metal, but the knob to twist them are actually plastic. The top part of the light over here is actually plastic. This is where the vent or the heat vents outwards, I believe. And then there's a lower part here as well that's also plastic that also allows the fan to vent out some heat, which is fantastic. For the most part, there's some other plastic on the sides of the light, and then the parts that's actually holding the COB in the front, that's this metal part right here, is actually aluminum. I believe that's CNC. The back is also plastic. So for all intents and purposes, this is a majorly plastic light, but the parts that are most fragile and the parts that need more durability were built completely with metal, which I cannot argue with. It's a fantastic way to save costs and also keep the heat on the light down. Now, moving away from the build quality of the body itself, the reflector is like any other reflector that you get for any light around this price point. I believe almost all the Godox lights I own have the exact same kind of reflector. It's like a newer design that they started using some 2 years ago. It works fantastic. So on the back of the light, you have this singular LED 4-corner display that basically displays everything you need to know about this light. You have the DC in, you have the power on and power off. You have a knob that you can basically use to switch between controlling the color temperature and controlling the intensity of the light, that is the brightness. And you have a mode button. The mode button is how you switch from rotate to slave mode, to master mode, and to the hap mode. The hap mode is what lets you control this light with your mobile phone, and we're going to talk about that a little bit later on in this video. So jumping straight into the hap control, let's move this to the app mode. On the hap for this device, it's actually pretty easy to connect it. Once you launch your GVM2 LED app, you just have to click that connecting and it's connected. And that's about everything you need to do to actually get this light working. It's almost foolproof, this app, right? It's got 2 knobs in the application that you use to control this. You have the power on, power off, which is great. And on that same power button, you can control the color temperature with the slider that goes round, right? And you also have the brightness control, which is where you pretty much control the brightness for this light. It's fantastic. And that's pretty much everything you need when it comes to the app. It has never had any issues for me where it didn't connect, or I wasn't able to do what I needed to do, or it just didn't work. Every single time I launch this app and the light is on, plugged to the wall, it completely works, which is fantastic. I've had other GVM lights in the past that weren't so easy to use when it came to the app, so I'm really glad that the connection between the light and your phone has really been improved. Now, I don't currently have an Android phone here that I can use to test the Android version of this app, but as far as I know, the iPhone app works and that's completely fine. Now, speaking on the modes, when you're in the rotate mode, you basically control everything with this knob on the back of the light. That is, you can increase intensity and you can reduce intensity. You can push it once to change to controlling color temperature, and that works fantastic for me. Now, if you push the mode button once, you get into slave mode. What this means is, depending on the channel this is set, if you have another GVM light that's set to the same channel, you can use that in master mode, and whatever changes you make on that one would be reflecting on this one directly. So you don't have to control two lights if you pretty much want to use them for the same things, if that makes sense. Like if you have like a stage setup, for example, you can set a bunch of them to slave on the same channel and use one as a master and control that from wherever you want to do that from. This is fantastic for things like stage lighting if you don't have like a controller or anything like that. If you press the mode button one more time, you can use this light as the master, which is fantastic because then you can use this light to control other lights that are on the same channel from the same company. And the last mode is the app mode, which we've already talked about, which is fantastic. So moving away from that, let's actually talk about the color temperatures and the fact that this goes from 2500K to 7500K. Now, this is so important because just for this feature alone, I have actually considered switching out my key light, that is the Golden Eagle LED 3000 that I'm currently using, to this. Now, it's not enough for a light to be daylight balanced at 5600K all the time. There are going to be certain situations where you're going to need more control over the color temperature of the light that you're actually using to shoot, because you can't always control everything, especially when you're shooting in other locations that are not your personal space or your personal studio and you don't have control over every single aspect of everything. There are times when you're at a location where there's tungsten bulbs and stuff that you need to color match and things like that. So the fact that this has 2500 warm all the way up to 7500K is fantastic for me. Now, speaking of that color temperature variation though, I have seen some other videos in the last couple of days where some other creators reviewed this light and mentioned that the 5600K on this light is actually not the right color temperature. It's actually not daylight balance. I don't know how to explain this, but essentially they found that moving closer to 7500K is more like the daylight balance. But I feel like if you're getting your white balance correctly from the jump inside of your camera, this shouldn't really be a problem for you because you're pretty much sorted for the most part, I believe. Now, but personally, after using this light, I don't think I'm ever going to go back to using any light that's not bicolor at the very minimum, because this is an absolute lifesaver and I can already tell this is going to save my life a lot the next time I'm going outside to shoot on location or for a client. Now, for the part where you guys have actually been waiting for, the most important part of any light review, that's the fan noise. This light does have a little bit of fan noise depending on how you're using it or what what's it called now, what percentage or brightness that you're using this light at and how long it's been running. So for example, if you're constantly running this light at 100%, obviously there's going to be a little bit of fan noise, right? That's 100%. It's extremely bright for 300 watts. So if you're constantly running this light at high brightnesses, in high temperatures, outside where it's hot, or in a location where there is no air conditioning like my studio right now, it's definitely going to get hot and the fans are going to kick in and you're going to be able to audibly hear them. But right now, as the light is next to me, it's on at around 2%. I can't even hear anything. My microphone is not picking up anything. If you're hearing any sounds, that's probably from my air conditioning. I appreciate the fact that this light can be so quiet, especially when you're not using it at high temperatures. For talking at videos like this, I never use a 300 watt light at higher than 4%, maybe 5% if the room is really dark, right? I don't think that's going to be different with this light because the output in this is about the same as my Golden Eagle LED 3000. But there's one thing I wish this light had, and that is a silent mode. The Golden Eagle LED 3000 that I use sometimes, as well as the Godox VL300, I believe, that I also use sometimes on some shoots as a completely silent mode, where you get less output, but when you push a button, the light is completely silent and there is absolutely no sound, none, coming from the fans on the light. This option is very important because there are some times where the quality of your sound is always going to be more important than, you know, the light intensity that you're currently using. So in some cases, if the microphone has to be like a boom mic and the mic is close to the light and you're trying to avoid having all that noise or that hiss or that fan noise, being able to just completely turn it off and work with some other practical lights in the scene is a godsend. But unfortunately, this doesn't have an option for that. And at this price point, I believe it should actually have an option for that. And speaking of the price, this light is actually $599 right now. That's about $600, but there's a catch to that price. I believe at the time of making this video, there's a BOGO going on the actual GVM website. So if you go to GVM's website where they actually sell this light, if you buy one of this light, you can get one free. That's one. If you're buying this from Amazon, right, there's a promo where you can get this light with a light stand and a parabolic softbox or something for the exact same price of $599. And if you're buying this on B&H right now, I believe I checked this yesterday, you can get the light with a 320 centimeter softbox that's like valued at $125 for just the price that you pay, the $599 price. So I think it's a good thing that they're actually offering all these extra deals and all these extra bundles for people who are actually interested in buying this light. It makes it a little more attractive than the competition or other lights around this price point. Now at $599, this costs about $50 more than my Golden Eagle LED 3000. Godox VL300 is slightly more expensive than this, but the excuse for that one is that it can actually be battery powered, but this one cannot. There's no option for mounting V-mounts to this light. You know, you can't shoot it without a wall outlet or power generator if you're shooting outside and you're away from you know, power outlets and wall chargers. You actually have to plug this into something. You cannot power this with batteries, which is a little unfortunate at this price point. But again, we still have to understand that at this price point, it's still not a pro light, it's still a budget light, and you know, for what it's offering, it's actually not bad. Now, so what are my final thoughts on this light? I feel like it's fairly durable. It's not the kind of plastic that's going to, you know, break over time. Maybe it will, I don't know. I've not had this light long enough to make decisions like that. But ultimately, I feel like the fact that they use metal, like really quality, high quality metal on the parts where the light is most likely to break or give you issues is fantastic. It's very long-sighted and you're thinking about the future of people who actually invest in this light. I like the way the light looks, I like the way it performs, but most importantly, I like the fact that I don't have to worry about using a remote control. This remote controls that we use for our lights are very annoying. Like, it's stressful. I like the fact that I can just grab my phone, which basically has the applications that I use to control my cameras and every other thing in my studio. And I can pretty much just control color temperature and control the light intensity, even if I have the light mounted all the way up or all the way somewhere else. And if I have multiple units of this light, I'm able to just control them from the same app and switch between them. So ultimately, I think this light is fantastic. I think it's a worthy buy. I think you should consider buying it if you're interested. For the price of $599 and all the other concessions that they're offering when you actually buy this light, I think it's a no-brainer. It's a really good deal for a 300 watt COB light. I wish that there was a silent mode, but there isn't one. But for the moment, the fans are not even as loud as most of the other lights I use. I mean, I've had this light on for a while and the fans haven't even spun up. Granted, I keep turning it off and turning it back on, but still, it's not kicking in. My Golden Eagle LED 3000, if I don't put it in the silent mode, the fan kicks in immediately, which is absolutely crazy. But then I suppose that's because the power brick is actually in the body of the light, unlike this one that actually has the power brick outside of it. So that was pretty much all my thoughts about the GVM SD300D. Thank you so much for watching this video, and I guess I will see you on another video that was shot by Kagan. Peace. The Khan of Gods!